As word spread of the investigation into the death of Roberta Amos, investigators in Detroit learned much about the suspect, Lowell Amos. He had an unsettling history with women. Two came forward who said that before he married Roberta, they met him at a bar, had drinks with him, and woke up in his apartment with no recollection of how they had gotten there. Other women reported becoming violently ill after being intimate with him. They claimed they'd been drugged. But the most astonishing revelations were yet to come.
I began to receive phone calls from relatives, received phone calls from doctors, private investigators, police officers, friends from as far away as Oregon. Most of the information that was coming in and was in regards not just Roberta Maury Amos, but also her husband Lowell Amos. I was advised that this was not his first wife to die at a young age under suspicious circumstances.
None of the deaths were considered criminal at the time. But times had changed, and the death of Roberta Amos shed new light on old events. In 1994, Michigan amended its rules of evidence. Past incidents could now be entered into a current criminal trial. If Amos's dark history could be shown to have some bearing on Roberta's death, the case against him would be the first one tried under the new rules. Nancy Westveld, assistant prosecuting attorney for Wayne County, Michigan, was brought in to see if the rules applied to Lowell Edward Amos.
If somehow we could demonstrate what Mr. Amos's real intentions were by looking back and looking at these other women, looking at their lives, looking at their deaths, looking at how Ed Amos had treated them, and in the end, what he did to them as they died.
The first Mrs. Amos, Sandra Amos, died in 1979 at age 36. The couple had been married 9 years. According to Lowell, Sandra mixed Dalmane, a sedative, with wine and must have collapsed and hit her head on the bathroom counter. Though Sandra's autopsy revealed traces of Dalmane and alcohol in her system, it wasn't enough to incapacitate her. Most of the drug was still in her stomach, undigested. She showed only a small abrasion over her eye, not enough to knock her out or kill her. Her cause of death was undetermined. The circumstances were not suspicious enough to launch an investigation. However, in hindsight, one detail stood out. After Sandra was taken away, a neighbor walked in to find Amos burning something in the fireplace. He told the neighbor it was his wife's clothes, bloodied from her accident. But whatever killed Sandra left no bleeding cuts or lacerations. There was no blood at the scene, and she was taken away in the clothes she was wearing when she died.
So the question became for us, what was Ed burning in the fireplace? And why was it so important that he get it destroyed before anyone saw exactly what it was?
Lowell Edward Amos received $350,000 as beneficiary of his first wife's insurance. Shortly after came wife number 2, Carolyn Amos, Lowell's mistress while he was married to Sandra.
You are irresponsible, no.
Their marriage was rocky. The friction point was the huge insurance policies Lowell kept taking out on his new wife. When he would not drop these policies in 1988, Carolyn threw him out of the house. He went to live with his mother, Mary Tolles, age 76. He stayed with her approximately 2 weeks when she became ill and was brought to the emergency room. Her doctor commented that it appeared as though she was drugged, but none of the medications prescribed to her could account for her disorientation. At the hospital, she began to recover and was sent home. Carolyn Amos phoned Mary Tolles every day to check up on her. A few weeks after Tolles returned from the hospital, Carolyn's call was answered by Lowell, who had just discovered that his mother was dead, apparently for several hours. Carolyn raced over to the house with a friend to find Lowell packing his belongings into his car. He didn't want anyone to know he was living there. Lowell inherited more than $1 million from his mother's estate. No autopsy was performed on Mary Towles because of her age. Carolyn let Lowell move back into the house. 9 months later, in the spring of 1989, Carolyn, too, was dead. According to Lowell's report to police, he brought Carolyn a glass of wine while she was in the bathroom blow-drying her hair. When he went to check on her later, he found her dead on the bathroom floor, eerily like his first wife. It took a while for medical assistants to arrive at their secluded house. By then, it was too late to revive her. Amos suggested that she may have been electrocuted from the blow dryer. An examination of the cord showed that it had been cut, but Carolyn wasn't electrocuted. Her cause of death was never determined. Though the case was never pursued, the medical crew found inconsistencies at the scene. The wine glass was missing, found later rinsed and in the dishwasher, and the position of the victim's body suggested that she had been moved.
Her pajama top and her pajama pants were up at the ends, both at the bottoms of her feet as well as at her waist, hitched up, as it were, as if she had been moved. Certainly not in a position they would have been if she had crumpled to the floor.
Lowell received $800,000 from his second wife's insurance policies. For investigators, Lowell Amos was the kiss of death to the women he purportedly loved. Detective Hennehan believed it had to be more than coincidence.
I have had 3 close relatives of mine that have died. I've never been within 500 miles of any one of them when they died. Lowell Amos was in the company of all 4 of these persons when they died. He benefited emotionally and financially from their deaths.
Like the other deaths, Roberta Amos lay dead for some time before authorities were notified.
Ed wanted to make sure that each of these women was beyond help. He wanted to make sure none could be resuscitated, none could be medically brought back to life, because he wanted all of these women dead.
Though Roberta Amos's marriage was failing, she enjoyed a measure of professional success. Shortly before her death, she had purchased a house with her own money. Her plan was to legally end her marriage to Lowell and make a fresh start. Though Lowell Edward Amos had no financial stake in her death, investigators believed that he couldn't stand the idea that she had rejected him. The similarities between the death of Roberta Amos and Lowell's other wives was enough to expose him as an opportunistic serial killer who murdered for money or just to end an inconvenient marriage. Based on the collected evidence and the ghosts from his past, authorities had what they needed to arrest him for the murder of his third wife, Roberta Amos.
From the photographs of that night, Roberta Maury Amos looked happy. She looked like she was having a good time. She must have had hope for the future then. She shouldn't have.